I think. Oh, it is glowing. I can see it now.
I can see. We're live.
We're live.
Wow.
Hey, and only 4 minutes. There we go.
Hey, it's
Yeah,
okay.
we got it.
I mean, you know, we're living our best lives out here.
We really are.
Oh, okay. Can you do like a watch party thing? Start watch party.
Here we go.
Join us
We're
for
here.
worship.
Hey. Uh-oh.
More to the ambiance.
Yeah. Is it like kind of fun?
I needed mine.
Okay, that's fair.
Start watch party.
Okay.
Oh, I can start a watch party.
Does it give like kind of an ambiance? Hello, Shannon. What do you think about the wind chimes? Thank you. You live here?
8 people already.
Okay.
Jeez.
Hello.
Gosh dang. Well, hello everyone. Welcome to the Sunday night worship. So if you don't know, we are actually going to be continuing worship for this whole
No.
thingy
Yes.
I'm so sorry. On Sunday nights at 6. So our live streams won't be separated now. We're actually just going to be doing one collaboration together.
Yes.
It saves our vocal energy, and it's just so much more fun to
It
sing with
really
someone
is.
else. Yeah. Any other news updates we have?
That's it. I know we'll be working on some YouTube channel things here soon.
True.
So exciting things.
True.
Stay posted. Keep
yeah.
posted. Stay posted.
Stay posted.
Stay
Yeah.
posted.
If you haven't already, we sent out a bunch of invites to the 246 group and the page. The page is going to be more where we're like posting like these events. The group though is a place that we want to open up to everyone to kind of have conversation about, you know, worship maybe, or God in general, or something related to that topic. And then obviously Instagram is so colorful with all our Canva made announcements.
We're high class for sure.
We are high
Oh, yeah.
class. For
Absolutely.
sure. Yeah. That's it.
I think so too.
Cool. All right. So the first song that we're going to start off with is called Glorious Day. Would you like to kind of let them know what our kind of like topic is for tonight, I guess?
Yes.
The theme.
So the theme of tonight is God's grace and our response to it. And so I think it is, you hear, you know, God has grace, and he absolutely does. But, you know, I think what really is important about that is what our response is to it. Because he can give us grace, but, you know, what makes it special is when it changes our lives and it changes our hearts. I think that's part of what it's designed to do. It's he gives us grace and then we want to follow after him. And so I think grace can be a hard thing for people to wrap their heads around. I think for me especially, it's just hard to understand why God would give us grace.
Yeah.
And so with that, sometimes it can be hard to have an appropriate response to grace.
Yeah, I agree with 100% of that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, the first song is going to be Glorious Day, and I think the reason I chose it is just because it really exemplifies that like response to the grace that God gives us. And I think that's very evident of the very first verse and the chorus. Literally, we talk about how we're buried beneath our sin and our shame in this song, and that's like kind of like our place that we're held. But the response is God saves us from that, and he calls us to get out of those graves that we put ourselves in and run to him. And so I think that's a great way to be like, hey, you give me this grace and you pay for my sin, and so I'm going to get up out of where I am and follow you. So feel free to sing along, clap along, whichever one you want to do. into your glorious day. Now your mercy has saved my soul. Now your freedom is all that I know. He obeyed you, Jesus, when I met you. You called my name, and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness to your glorious day. You called my name, and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness to your glorious day. I needed rest when my sin was heavy. The chains break at the weight of your love. I needed shelter, I was an orphan. You called me a citizen of heaven. When I was broken, you were my healer. Your love is the air that I breathe. I have a future, my eyes are open. So when you call my name, I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness into your glorious day. You called my name, and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness into your glorious day.
Amen.
Nice. Yeah, that song is one. Super pumped.
Absolutely.
I guess is the best way to say
Tis pumped.
it. Just
Tis
pumped.
pumped. Yeah.
Cute but loud.
Oh, the wind chimes.
Oh, okay. I was like,
We're cute but loud. Here in your presence, in a grace so endless, I am one by perfect love, wrapped within the arms of heaven, in a peace that lasts forever, sinking deep in mercy, sea and wide awake, drawing closer by grace, and all my heart is yours. I'll feel and move, breathe you in into your love. Oh, your love. When I'm lost, you pursue me. With my head to see your beauty, Lord of all. So beautiful. Giving you I find shelter, captivated by the splendor of your face. I see grace wide awake, drawing closer by grace, and all my heart is yours. I'll feel and move, breathe you in, I lean into your love. Oh, love so deep, it's washing over me. Your face is all I see. You are my everything. Jesus Christ, you are my one desire. Lord, you're my only part. To know you all my life. Love so deep, it's washing over me. Your face is all I see. You are my everything. stirred by grace, and all my heart is yours. All fear removed, I breathe you in, I lean into your love. Oh, your love.
Yeah.
I think what's cool about that song is it talks about being stirred by grace. And I think that really fits in kind of with the theme of what we're talking about, of just having God's grace be just such a prime motivator in our lives. I think oftentimes I get so caught up with the fact that I don't deserve it that I forget to thank him for grace.
Yeah.
And so.
Yeah, I like that. You get caught up in, I think that's true for a lot of people, especially you get caught up in kind of like where you're at that you forget. You just kind of like distance yourself. You're like, dang, like I missed the mark again.
Yeah.
And in our like human brains, like we see other people and you're like, oh, that person can't forgive me. Like that person is not going to show me grace. But to then just like be reminded of like, yeah, he is going to show us grace.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of peace in that. A lot of confusion and understanding to be had, but definitely there. Yeah, this next one is What a Beautiful Name. And I think the reason I picked this song, not that it talks about grace specifically, but I think there's a lot of elements on how we can respond to the grace God shows us. And I think a lot of that has to do with praise. We see a lot of the times in Psalms when people are just feeling at their lowest or they're just distraught, that they're like, hey, this is how I feel, but like I'm still going to praise you regardless of how I feel. And I mean, a lot of those songs come from David, which I mean, David was no sinless king himself. He got himself wrapped up in quite the trouble. But to see that he still has that attitude of like, I've sinned against you and what you are trying to lead me into, like, but I'm still going to praise you because I know there's grace that you give. So, yeah. This is What a Beautiful Name.
Oh gosh, it's back.
I know. Also, if you see a little object blurring around, there has been a flea or whatever, like, harassing us.
We got fleas.
Yeah, I do have fleas. You were the word that began. One with God, the Lord Most High. Hidden glory in creation, now revealed in you are Christ. What a beautiful name it is. What a beautiful name it is. The name of Jesus Christ, my King. What a beautiful name it is. Nothing compares to this. What a beautiful name it is. The name of Jesus. Didn't want heaven without us. So Jesus, you brought heaven down. Your sin was great, your love was greater. What could separate us now? What a wonderful name it is. What a wonderful name it is. The name of Jesus Christ, my King. What a wonderful name it is. Nothing compares to this. What a wonderful name it is. The name name of Jesus. Death could not hold you, the veil torn before you, silence the boast of sin and grave. The heavens are roaring, the praise of your glory, for you are raised to life again. You have no rival, you have no equal, now and forever, God, you reign. Yours is the kingdom, yours is the glory, yours is the name above all names. What a powerful name it is, what a powerful name it is. The name of Jesus Christ, my King. What a powerful name it is. Nothing can stand against. What a powerful name it is. The name of Jesus. What a powerful name it is. The name of Jesus. What a powerful name it is. The name of Jesus. Good stuff. Good stuff. Gosh. My fingertips lately, I think I said this last week, but my fingertips lately have been so pressed in with my strings that they like leave imprints.
Oh my gosh, not that.
OMG, yeah, God, yeah. Hello, who else is here? So I see John, yeah, Bailey's here, whatever. Caroline, what's good? Shannon, yeah.
I said, God, I do not understand this world. Everything is dying and broken. Why do I see nothing but suffering? Actually, before we sing this song, so this song is really cool. It's one of it's one of my favorite songs. It's so good, but it goes from where Job, this man of God who's been afflicted, he is at the end of the book of Job. He is like crying out to God. He's like, why is there so much injustice? And like, it does feel unjust. And like, there's horrible things are happening to him. Like, he lost basically all of his family, everything. He lost everything, and he's just not doing hot. But he is crying out to God. And he's like, is this like your plan? Like, what's going on? I don't like this. I'm angry. And he said these things, it seemed like out of a place of pride and not a place of like humility. Like, is this your plan, God? It was like, is this your plan? Because I think you're wrong. And so God came to him, according to the book of Job, and said, hey, were you there when I made the world? Were you there when, did you see when I made the sea? Because I don't remember you there, but I was there. And it seems like I might understand this a little bit more. And like, God sasses Job. I'm so sorry. And yeah, he like goes after Job in a kind way, in a loving way, but he calls him out. And that's kind of what this song is based on. And it kind of finishes with, I spoke of things I did not understand, things too wonderful to me, for me. And although I had no right to ask, my God knelt and answered me. And I think that's just such a picture of what God does for us so much, because we have no rights. We are owed nothing, and yet God lavishes grace on us, and he lavishes love, and he answers us, and he doesn't have to. He's God of the universe. He doesn't have to do anything. But yet he does. And so that is
facts.
That is good.
Boom.
Good stuff. And so I just wanted y'all to be thinking about that if you would like before
I'd like to. If you would like to think about it. Think about it.
before this song. So let's
That's
start
good.
this again.
That's really good.
I said, God, I do not understand this world. Everything is dying and broken. Why do I see nothing but suffering? God, I'm asking, could this be your plan? Sin has taken hold of this whole land. Will you not say anything else to me? He said, where were you the day that I measured? Sunk the banks and stretched the line over all the earth and carved out its cornerstone. Were you there the day when I spoke and told the sun to split the night open, cause the morning dark with its light to show? Who shut in the ocean with stone doors, marked the reach of tides on the new shores, on the day the waves rose and first no. Have you seen the springs of that great sea? Walk the caverns carved in the black deep, through the gates of darkness there on its floor. Have you seen the armory I hold? Snow and hail are stacked up in silo for the times of trouble and war and strife. Can you raise your voice to the storm cloud? Would the thunder answer and ring out? Does the lightning ask you where it should strike? Who is like the pebbles where torrents rain the spout and desert with forest? In the wilderness that my hand has built. Can you run the race for young lions? Can you use the board for Orion? Is this whole world bending beneath your will? I spoke of things I did not understand, things too wonderful for me. And although I had no right to ask, my God knelt and answered me.
Dang. I just realized one of the lines in that. Go flip that page back real quick. So like obviously like Claire talked about, like the book of Job is basically like Job gets, whatever you want to call it. But the line that says, "Does the lightning ask you where to strike?" That, I don't know why that stood out to me this time, but I was like, how powerful does like a being have to be to where the lightning's like, should I strike here or not? But like how much control that is. And then like Claire said at the beginning, like God doesn't have to answer Job. Like he doesn't have to give him a reason. He didn't even have to like talk to Job at all. Like what God decides is just and is fair, whether we understand that or not. But the fact that God kneels down and answers us when we ask him a question, like doesn't have to, but he does. And that's just, really, really awesome. Really awesome song.
I think it's also cool. It said, this kind of struck me as well. So I had no right to ask, my God knelt and answered me. And I have this kind of vision of like a father kneeling down to speak to like a small child. And that's like not a proud position. That's kind of a humble position of kneeling. But then it's also intimate of kneeling down and talking to someone, getting on their level and being like, hey, let's talk. Even if what you're talking about is like, hey, you really don't know my plan. I am God. You are not. But the way that he does it is just, it's powerful, and it puts me in my place for sure. It definitely put Job in his place. He was like, okay, all right. That's fair.
Yeah, that is a really awesome song for sure. You know what we forgot to do? We forgot to even talk about the community sharing question. Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah,
because that's our
It's time.
fourth song.
It
Which
is time.
you know what that means. Community sharing.
Sharing.
Yay!
That was
cringe.
cool.
Yeah, Claire, would you like to share the question that we have posed?
Yes. So, kind of talking about God's grace, what is your relationship with God's grace? Is it easy for you to accept? Is it hard? If it's hard, why is it hard for you? And kind of like what can you do to kind of move along that direction of being able to accept God's grace? Maybe not understand it, because I don't think that we're ever going to fully understand God's grace. I mean, like what we just saying, like He's clearly God, and we're not, and so
That's true.
that is the community sharing question.
Yeah. So, yeah. Yeah, we just kind of want to know your thoughts on like what is your relationship with like God's grace? Like how do you view that? So, if you would love or like, you can do either. If you want to share kind of your thoughts behind that, you can text either Claire or I your answers, or you can Facebook message us, whichever you want to do. Or in the chat, yeah, you can share with everybody. Yeah, so if you have an answer to the question of like, what is your relationship to God's grace, and how do you kind of like, see that? And while y'all are typing those up with your fast little Twitter fingers, you mind if I share?
Absolutely.
Wow, cool. Yeah, so I think over the past couple of weeks, the reason, oh, there's a spider right there.
Oh no.
The reason I kind of had this idea of, maybe we should talk about grace is because I was pointed out by some of my mentors that I don't really understand grace sometimes. A lot of the time. Not sometimes, a lot of the time. And so it just kind of like posed that question of in my head of like, how does that affect my relationship with God? Like, do I need to fully understand grace, or do I need to understand it at all? Can I just accept it? And I think the answer to that question is, yeah, it is super important for us to, bless you?
I didn't.
Okay.
I wanted to so badly, and I didn't sneeze. But thank you.
Yeah. I think we all want to understand grace, but we don't sometimes. And so I think it is important for us to understand just a little bit of what God's grace is. And I see that a lot in my life, in the example of whenever I miss the mark, whenever I sin, and I don't understand that grace, there's a divide. Because I know we've all felt the shame that comes after whatever sin or whatever mark that we've missed. And I think without understanding that grace, that sin is very easily going to take over our mindset and where it kind of drives us. And so I think when it comes to my relationship with grace, I think there's a lot of learning. Definitely in my life, when I've missed the mark, because I haven't understood grace, it separates God and I, and it drives our relationship apart, because I sin and I miss the mark, and I'm like, how does anyone forgive me? Like, I don't even want you to look at me right now. It's kind of like when you break somebody's possession, like you break somebody's phone, you're like, I really don't want to. Like, I know you are going to give me grace or whatever, but like, I just don't want to be here because I just did that.
Yeah.
And so I think that's how I feel. Definitely a lot of the times of like, dang it, I messed up and I don't want you to see that, so I'm just going to step away.
Mm-hmm.
But I think where I've kind of been coming with it is I mess up, but I understand that I'm not going to let that drive you away from me or me away from you. Because at the very end of the day, at the very least, that's not what he wants at all. The last thing he wants is for us to run away from him.
That's good. We got something from Bailey here, and she says, oh, this is good. I think I really struggle with the idea of God giving me grace. It just seems so crazy that something is given to me that I will never deserve. I always feel like I have to then keep working harder and harder to earn it. God demonstrates in Scripture time and time again that He has bestowed love on me despite my works, my life, and my value. That is really just hard to understand. So I can logically understand grace, but sometimes I really have to choose to believe that God has forgiven me and granted me grace for my sin. It just seems so crazy, which it kind of is, but God's love is so cool that way. Absolutely. Bailey, I really relate with that too. I think I could talk to somebody about grace and I could make a good point for it. And I think I even had a core on grace this year. Like I think that happened. But I just really, it's just such a struggle for me as well. And like what you were saying, like, I don't even want to like look at God. I'd rather run away and just not have Him love me when I feel like I've done something really wrong.
Yeah.
But I think that is influenced by me thinking that I can earn God's love, and I can't. Because if you can earn love, then you can do things to get love, and then you can do things to be unloved, and that's not how it works in God's kingdom. I don't really know how to fix that on my own. I think that's a heart change, but also just kind of a dropping, like just drop it, of like, okay, well, you don't feel like it, too bad. Like, I'm sorry you don't feel like you deserve grace, but you do, or you don't, but God gives grace. We don't deserve grace. There you go. Yes.
I agree though.
Caroline said,
let's see. Okay, so Caroline says, my relationship with God's grace has always been one where I feel like I have to earn it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand it, and so I ignore it and try to make it more of a transaction thing.
Mm-hmm.
I also am such a concrete person that abstract thoughts like grace are really difficult to understand. Mm-hmm. I just need to surrender to it and trust it instead of trying to fully comprehend it. Yeah, I think there's a lot of themes that are popping up with what we're talking about. It's just like this idea of grace is something that like you don't have to earn it.
Yeah.
Like He just gives it. And it's I'm kind of in the same boat of like these abstract ideas of like, we work to earn things, but this is something that we don't deserve and can't earn, but we still get.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what?
I don't get that.
But I think in a great way, it's like, it's a great thing that we have that, like, for sure. Yeah.
Because who could live up to God's standard? Like, who could possibly do that? People tried. They tried with the law, and they had to offer sacrifice, and even that wasn't enough. And so we can't do that.
I didn't even think of that. Of like, not even the very first people that God picked were like deserving of it. Therefore, they had to do all these things to like just one, be in His presence and be on like in good graces with God or whatever you want to call it. And now we're just like, oh yeah, like Jesus died for my sins. Good.
Yeah. I think we take that for granted a lot.
That's for sure. That is for sure. Yeah. And it kind of makes me, on the topic of that, of like us taking for granted like that sacrifice, it makes me like wonder how much more serious like sin was taken before Jesus. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I bet it was a big deal.
Because like I feel like I feel like we do take sin serious.
Yeah.
But not as serious as I think we should in terms of like how I imagine the early Israelites would have taken that. Because before that, for us, we're just like, Jesus is my atonement for all the sins that I have committed. But like the Israelites are like, well, here's another sacrifice we got to do because we all messed up again.
And it cost them something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so in the back of my mind, I'm like, how often would they probably like think about that of like, I've just contributed to, not even, almost like that. Like I imagine their mindset is like, I've now just contributed to the whole group that I'm in, like that pot of sins. Like I've just now put my stone in there, and now, a little old lamb has to pay for mine.
Yeah. Wow, that's good. Jocelyn said, Grace is so hard for me to understand. I've read books, scripture, talked to mentors, and through all of that, I still struggle to fully understand it. It just blows my mind that the creator of the universe will still love and forgive me, even when I miss the mark, even when I can't forgive myself. Absolutely. So I end up trying to cover it up and work harder so I can make up for whatever I did. When in the end, God already has grace for me, which, let me tell you, what a blessing, honestly. Something that I was thinking about of like taking sin seriously. I think oftentimes I can kind of fall into the trap of like, oh, I don't take my sin seriously enough, and so I'm going to beat myself up for it and refuse God's grace. But I don't think that's taking it seriously. I think that's beating yourself up and refusing God's grace. I didn't either until recently.
That's a good point.
Like 5 minutes ago.
Yeah.
1 minute ago.
1 minute
like
ago.
just now.
1 minute and 6 seconds ago. No, I never, yeah. Wow, okay. Yeah, because that, I mean, puts a whole another spin on like how we see our sin and grace. Because if you just beat yourself up about it, like you're not doing anything to fix it. You're just being like, oh, like, I mean, it's like sulking. Yeah. You know? You just sit there and sulk, like, I'm such a bad person. Yeah. Like, I've, you know, when God's more than like, okay, yeah, like, we can get past it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
That'd be weird, like with the breaking someone's phone analogy. Say someone broke your phone. Like, you wouldn't be happy that they broke your phone. Yeah. But if they're like, I don't want to talk to you, I don't want to come to you, and they just like held on to your broken phone, like, can I please have my phone back? Like, I can fix my phone. Like, that's fine. We can deal with this later. But just like talk to me. Like, I know you broke your phone. Yeah. Just tell me you broke your phone. Or broke my phone. And so like that would be a really weird thing for someone to just be like, no, you know, and just be like crying in a corner about it. And I think we do that with our sin, broken phone sin.
Yeah. Shannon shared a story with me a couple days ago about an example of, I won't go into the full story, but it was something along the lines of kind of like a ministry went out and the kids in the ministry kind of like pranked the leader, who was like really worried about their safety, and they kind of like played a prank on him, and it like freaked him out. And so like he's at this point where like he's supposed to be like taking care of these kids, and now like the worst in his head has now just happened in his perspective. But it ends up being, you know, like a prank, you know. And the interesting part about that I thought of is the feeling. Like, I can put myself in their shoes and be like, once everything's over and you realize that that person isn't laughing about what you've just done, like that kind of feeling that you get of like, I don't want to talk to that person. Like, I just hurt them. Yeah. And now, like, what do I do? And I think that's the feeling that we have when it comes to like sinning against God, of like, oof, I have just sinned against him. I don't know if I should be talking to him right now, you know. But I think that's a lie that we tell ourselves. And, you know, at the end of the story, they like sit together or whatever. It's a beautiful moment. But I think that's the important key of like understanding, like, when that feeling occurs, like acknowledging that and being like, I feel this right now, and I know I shouldn't be feeling it. So like, what should I do in the opposite direction of what I'm feeling? You know? That's good. Kind of lean into the uncomfortableness. Raven says, I think that it is hard for me to see God giving me grace because I am such a bad person. I find it easier to see why God would give grace to others. What is cool, though, is that he still gives it to me anyway. That makes him such a good father. Absolutely. I think the analogy, or like the comparison of like God, because he is a father, but like acknowledging him, me and words nowadays, I swear. But like acknowledging him as a father makes it easier for me, at least, to be like, like a good dad. Like if I were to imagine a perfect dad, like that's him. Yeah. And so therefore I'm like, if the perfect dad does this for their kid, like they really love them, you know? And so this is what Glenn Lively said in the Wiley Northeast Watch Party. In the grip of grace,
First story really puts grace into perspective. Our most righteous acts are filthy rags. Ooh.
Whoa.
Oh, that's good.
Dang, Glenn.
That's really good.
Jeez.
And that Caroline earlier had said that her peer team leader said that shame rarely spurs change.
My peer team leader said shame rarely spurs is to change.
I feel
Isn't
like
that wild?
spurs
Spurs us to change.
us to change.
Ah!
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
like I'm not the only one who can't talk.
Yeah, it keeps us in the dark, inseparated, like what you're talking.
Yeah,
Mhm.
for sure. Which is not a good thing.
Not at all.
Not at all. Dang, that last one from Glenn. That's good.
That's really
In the
good.
group of grace, first story really puts grace into perspective. Our most righteous acts are filthy rags. What?
Oh, that's
No, I don't
good.
even know how to feel about that, but
I
it's
almost wanna
like
end this and just go think for an
bye.
hour.
Dang.
That's really good.
Glenn, if you're still watching,
Thank you.
salute to you.
Fantastic.
Cool. So I think that is going to be the end of our community sharing for now. If you still want to post in the chat, like so many of your lovely friends have, do it, because I encourage you to do it.
Mhm.
And on the topic of doing it, we're going to sing the song "Do It Again." Ah!
Yes.
Segue. I'm playing this song.
Yes. Are we gonna do that one?
Oh, which one?
Springtime?
Oh, yeah. Never mind. We're gonna sing "Springtime." Never mind. Yeah.
Okay.
I was wrong because I flipped it over
That
after
was so good.
the joke was there.
It
I
was
had
really
to.
good. You
know what I
really
mean?
did. I almost. Should we change everything for that? I think maybe.
Yeah. We should. No, I'm just kidding.
Let's go. For the resurrection we have waited for, we buried the night and came with the morning. With the King of Heaven, the praise is yours. The longer the quiet, the louder the chorus. And we will sing a new song, 'cause death is dead and only the winner. And we will sing a new song, let hallelujahs flow like a river, coming back to life, reaching towards the light. Your love is like springtime. The living water, God, we thirst for you. Dry in the barren, flower in bloom. You're the sun that's shining, you restore my soul. The deeper you call us, oh, the deeper we'll go. We will sing a new song, 'cause death is dead and gone for the winner. We will sing a new song, let hallelujahs flow like a river, coming back to life, reaching towards the light. Your love is like springtime. Come tend the soil, come tend the soil of my soul, and like a garden, I will grow. I will grow. Come tend the soil, come tend the soil of my soul, and like a garden, I will grow.
flow like a river. We're coming back to life. Reaching towards the light. Your love is like springtime. And we'll sing a new song. Cause death is dead and gone is overnight. And we'll sing a new song. Hallelujah, flow like a river. Coming back to life. Reaching towards the light. Your love is like springtime. Like springtime. Nice.
So let's do it again. Except
Yeah.
not that.
Yeah.
In fact.
Yeah, we are gonna do it again. This song is really good. You know what? The lyric that really stands out to me, for whatever reason, is the one where it says, "The longer the quiet, the louder the chorus." I
Mhm.
don't know exactly what that means, but like I don't know. I just imagine like the time that we kind of spend. Oh wait, no, I got it. I got it. Okay,
You got it.
so I really like the reference that they use of like winter being like dead,
Mhm.
because I mean that's when plants dies, trees die, no, die, but they lose their leaves and things start going into like not fruitful
Mhm.
environment scenery. So I kind of imagine that line, the longer the quiet, like this long winter where
Yeah.
nothing is going on, and kind of like the same thing of where like nothing is going on in our
Mhm.
lives, like that plateau.
Yeah.
Like I feel like a lot of people talk about like, oh, like
Mhm.
I'm on a spiritual high right now.
Mhm.
I just got back from winter camp and I'm on a spiritual high. But then they're like, oh, but like I feel like a plateau, like nothing's really going on. But I feel like that line might be kind of talking about that. Like
Yeah.
when we have those plateaus of like, I feel like nothing is going on. Like I'm
Mhm.
not growing. I'm
Yeah.
not, going away from God. But maybe that's exactly kind of like those moments that need to happen where you are kind of level a while.
Mhm.
And maybe the longer that goes, when those,
Mhm.
events happen, like the louder that praise, that chorus will
Yeah.
be. And so this winter time, like this long winter of nothing growing, everything's being
Yeah.
dead, but then kind of like opening up into this beautiful spring
Yeah.
of life. Man,
That's good.
imagery.
Yes.
It's great.
That reminds me of like when there was the years of silence with Israel, and then Jesus came, and so like that's like the biggest thing ever. There've been all of this, just this quiet and kind of that plateau of just kind of we're just here, nothing, not hearing anything, and then like the savior of the entire world comes, and he's God, like God comes to earth.
Wow, mind blown. I like that though. Like nothing is going on, and then Jesus shows up, and they're like,
That's a loud chorus.
That's a loud chorus. Yeah, exactly. All right, so let's do it again. The song.
Yeah.
Ha-ha! Now I got to use my joke, kind of.
Yeah.
It's okay.
You got it.
Walking around these walls, I thought by now they'd fall, but you have never failed me yet. Waiting for change to come, knowing the battle's won, for you have never failed me yet. Your promise still stands, great is your faithfulness, faithfulness. I'm still in your hands, this is my confidence, you never failed me yet. I know the night won't to pass. My heart will sing your praise again. Jesus, you're still enough. Keep me within your love. My heart will sing your praise again. Your promise still stands. Great is your faithfulness. Faithfulness. I'm still in your hands. This is my confidence. You never failed me, yeah. I've seen you move the mountains, and I believe I see you do it again. You made a way where there was no way, and I believe I see you do it again. I've seen you move the mountains, and I believe I see you do it again. You made a way where there was no way, and I believe I see you do it again. I see you do it again. Your promise still stands. Great is your faithfulness. Faithfulness. I'm still in your hands. This is my confidence. You never failed me, yeah. Your promise still stands. Great is your faithfulness. Faithfulness. I'm still in your hands. This is my confidence. You never fail me, yeah.
Now my Savior, I come
joy or pain. Come quick and divine, for life is vain. I need, oh, I need thee. Every hour I need thee. Oh, bless me now, my Savior. I come to thee. Need thee every hour. In joy or in pain. Come quickly and divine, for life is vain. I need, oh, I need thee. Every hour I need thee. Oh, bless me now, my Savior. I come to thee.
Nice. Oldie but a goodie, as they say.
Absolutely.
Oldie as a goodie. Oldie as a goodie? Oldie but a goodie.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's one of those.
Oldie and a goodie.
Yeah, I really like that song.
Me too.
It's one of those oldies, but it does speak a lot of good truth. Good truth
Yeah.
behind it.
Sure.
Yeah. This last song has kind of been on my mind for a little bit. And I definitely think it's kind of a different type of worship song, to be honest. If I didn't tell you it was a worship song, it could almost pass as it can pass as a just regular pop mainstream song. But the song is called Rescue You. And I just kind of had this vision of I kind of had this vision of kind of like where God sees us when we do have those times of like being low and being or like feeling alone, but him being like, hey, like I see that this is going on, but like I'm coming for you. My favorite line in this is I will send out an army to find you in the middle of the darkest night. It's true, I will rescue you.
That's good.
Yeah, and it just continues going on of like God's pursuit of us is never ending and relentless, if you in a good way. In a good
Yeah.
But I just think it's like a beautiful image of like us being in this place of like, I'm lost, I'm broken, help. And God being like, all right, we're sending out the cavalry.
Yeah.
So I think that's really awesome. Yeah. So you are not hidden. There's never been a moment you were forgotten. You are not hopeless. You have been broken, your innocence stolen. I hear you whisper underneath your breath. I hear your SOS, your SOS. I will send out an army to find you in the middle of the darkest night. It's true, I will rescue. There is no distance that cannot be covered over and over. You're not defenseless. I'll be your shelter, I'll be your armor. I hear you whisper underneath hear you, SOS, your SOS. I will send out an army to find you in the middle of the darkest night. It's true, I will rescue you. I will never stop marching to reach you in the middle of the hardest fight. It's true, I will rescue you. I hear you whisper underneath your breath. I hear you whisper, you have nothing left. I will send out an army to find you in the middle of the darkest night. It's true, I will rescue you. I will never stop marching to reach you in the middle of the hardest fight. It's true, I will rescue you. I hear you whisper underneath your breath. I hear you whisper, you have nothing left. I will send out an army to find you in the middle of the hardest night. It's true, I will rescue you. I will never stop marching to reach you in the middle of the hardest fight. It's true, I will rescue you.
Yay!
Cool.
All right. Thus concludes worship night.
Thus concludes another worship night evening.
Oh,
Yeah,
so
night.
much fun. Yes.
Yeah, we kind of look like we're super pale. I promise, I'm not at least.
Yeah.
Shots fired. Yeah. Stay. Okay.
All right.
Cool.
If there's anything y'all would like to talk about in the next worship nights, feel free to let either one of us know, whether that's through text, Facebook message, Instagram, DM, whatever.
Or the Worship 246 group. Wow.
Yes. Do that. You should do that. That would be cool.
You
That
should.
would be really cool.
Yeah, and I think to kind of explain that group, so kind of explaining the difference between the two, the pay, and there's a lot of things. There's the Instagram, there's the Facebook page, there's the Facebook group, there's the fan club. No, I'm kidding. And to kind of separate those, just so y'all are aware of like what's where and what's what is. The page is definitely going to be where we're posting information about what's going on in terms of...
She's the leader of the family.
Yes, we are now promoting Bailey Crawford
Yes.
to the leader of the fan club. Rock on. Yeah, so the page is definitely where we put kind of information about the worship nights, or maybe stuff that we're posting, like the original content that we're coming up with soon. Aha!
Very soon.
Very soon.
Soon, very soon.
Very soon, exactly. So the page will just kind of be for announcements and kind of like, hey, this is what we're doing, what's going on. But the group, I think we really wanted to kind of come to the idea of, we want y'all to interact with that group as well. So if you have gotten a chance to join that group, we want to see just a community of people who love Jesus loving on each other, whether that's being really encouraging in that group. Sending inspirational scripture or quotes or whatever. We want to see people interact outside of this worship night. And I think that's kind of the goal of what we wanted to do with this worship night we come together and we sing and we talk about community sharing, but at the end of the day, it's about community. And what better place than Facebook group?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And just to remind,
Oh, yes.
so the reason we are called Worship 246, 246? What?
246.
Is it's based off of Acts chapter 2, verse 46. And it says, every day they continued to meet in the temple courts. They broke bread together in their homes and ate together with glad and sincere hearts. And the Lord added to their number. Oh, praising God. I skipped an entire line. Praising God and enjoying the favor of all the people. And the Lord added to their number daily those who were being saved. And so I think that's cool. It kind of was born out of this quarantine thing of like, oh, we can't meet together, but we can. Just online. And so, the group is just a great way to continue to meet up and meet up. And
like we said, we just really want to encourage you to like take that community outside tonight.
Yeah.
For those of you kind of new to this is the official announcement, I guess, of like Sunday nights at 6 p.m. you will see this face
and that face
and this face leading that face.
Yes.
That was good. In worship. Until further notice, we probably will still live stream them, even if we can kind of meet in like a group. I have ideas. But for now, Sundays, 6 p.m.
Right here.
Raher.
Oh, right there, not here.
Right there.
Don't come to my
don't do
Please
it.
Don't
do it.
Don't.
But you can get on Facebook and you can be like, hey, I want to worship.
Yes.
And boy, howdy, 6 to 7, you're in luck.
Here we are.
I think that's all of our like announcements for the night.
I think so too.
So just get that sun right out. Would you like to end us in a little prayer?
Absolutely, yeah. Hey God, you are so good. You are so faithful to us. And I just want to thank you for giving us just the technology that we have to be able to do this and make this community be able to come together in your name. God, I want to thank you for all the people who have taken time out of their nights to come and just worship with us and worship you. I want to pray for everyone right now who is suffering and hurting, and those who are lonely right now. I want to pray that you would just lift their spirits and give them joy and comfort them. God, and you are so good, and we love you so much. In your name I pray. Amen.
Amen. And with that, thank you for tuning in.
Thank you much.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.